And just that quick, we're back. Thanks for your patience, guys. I do occasionally like to play something besides Dwarf Fortress. I love the game, but I can't do it all the time. Give me a second to get set up. We'll resume. While that's loading, I'm going to grab my slippers. Give me a second. And I should probably change the name and details under the stream. So give me a second to do that before we get underway. Now that is a proper title for this stream. Okay. Let's pick up where we left off. With our moat in dire need of drainage because it's flooding. I don't want a full moat. I actually don't want the water. That's a bad thing for us. So we're going to change how we're doing this because it's now full enough it would cause a problem if we excavated it that way. And once this is done, what we'll do is we'll basically connect it so that there's too much room for the marsh to keep filling it up. It'll get spread out and drain. Alternatively, there is another alternative. Let's use the other alternative. I like the other alternative. Let's do that. The other alternative is that we dig a room here with a raising and lowering drawbridge, and we just crush the water out of existence, which is much faster and will serve us in the future. Ballistae are ready. Drawbridge is ready. I'll tell you what, there's only one of you out there at the moment. There's only, according to this, one viewer in chat. I'll let you decide. You want me to continue on with this fortress or start a new one? All you gotta do is tell me. And it should be your way. It's easy to be in the majority when you're the only person around. And so it shall be. Anything you wanted to see in particular? Anything you wanted to feast your eyes on? Learn how to do? Oh, that's right. I got a wax stress. Give me a second. There we go. I wouldn't normally do that, except in the current version, the stress model is completely broken, and dwarves will eventually go insane no matter what you do, because there are many needs that you cannot meet and cannot control. Your dwarves need to pray, but you can't give them time off unless you literally go through dwarf by dwarf and make sure that they all individually have enough time off to do it. I'm not going to micromanage to that degree. Additionally, let's say you did, there's several more needs just like that one in the form of hasn't crafted recently, hasn't done military duty, hasn't been in a fight. You have just as much control over those as you do the temple labor. That is to say, you can turn off a dwarf's labor, and that's about it. You're then waiting on them to hopefully meet their needs. Additionally, there are several needs which simply cannot be met no matter what the player may do. Dwarves move to your fortress and then get pissy that they're away from their friends and family. Well, if their friends and family migrated, that wouldn't be a problem. But if they don't, there's nothing you can do about it, and you have no control over that. But the forges are doing good. And hopefully Toady will fix the stress model for the next version. You can, but let's be serious about what that means. Hold on a moment. This guy has no friends and family in the fort. He'll go nuts eventually. This guy has no friends in the fort. He might not go nuts, but he'll get really depressed. Let's see. Does this guy actually complain about having no family? No, he's good. Let's see. No friends. No friends. No family. Family's the big one. There's nothing you can do about that. Friends, you can kind of help, but not much. Family. Friends. Friends and family. Anybody who has friends and family is going to get screwed in the long run because the lack of friends will depress them, and the absence of family that you can't control will send them the rest of the way. There's very little you can do to affect some of these needs. Likewise, this dwarf here, let's use him as an example. This dwarf here is complaining about absence of good meals. I'm sure I saw it there. Maybe it wasn't this one. Maybe I clicked the wrong one. Hang on a second. Worry after a lack of decent meals for too long. Let's consult for a moment why this dwarf is worried about a lack of decent meals. We have something like... It's not really a bug in this mechanic, although I think there are bugs in this mechanic. It's more like the interaction of systems that aren't themselves fully complete, and none of them interact well. So, the migration system's been in since the beginning. Dwarves migrate to your fortress randomly periodically every season, right? But now they get upset if they don't see their friends and family periodically. Now, that's not a problem, apparently, for NPC dwarves in World Gen, But your dwarves actually exist and don't send visitors and don't go visit their friends and family apparently on their own. Apparently that happens in NPC forts, but it never happens in yours. Likewise, socialization, which should create friends, is kind of broken at the moment, and Tony knows it. Dwarves will only socialize if they're directly orthogonal, that is, north, south, east, west, of another dwarf, while they need to socialize, while they're trying to do the socialization labor in the appropriate building. It doesn't work well. It's giving your dwarf enough time to find the right combination of arrangements is silly. People have taken to locking them in closets to try and force them to socialize, and even that's not necessarily successful. Restless after being unable to wander. Every dwarf in my fortress, except for those rare moments where there's a siege outside, is able to wander wherever they want, whenever they want. It's very rare that I put on a burrow, and even if I do, I don't understand how the dwarf isn't wandering around the entire fort. It's fairly expansive. Restlessness after lack of abstract thinking. That's a library. I have one. I can't make dwarves use it. I have to turn off all their labors and hope they do. That's not productive long term. And I'd have to do this same song and dance for every dwarf in my 200 dwarf fort. There's no way to arrange this sensibly. So yes, I can banish a dwarf, but that's just putting a band-aid on a sucking chest wound. Sooner or later, the guy next to him doesn't have family, and he goes nuts. And then the guy next to him, and the guy next to him, and the guy next to him, and it just continues that way. It's a set of mechanics that are not fully realized, that things that just need to be finished, and when they're finished, they'll interact better. But in their current state, they interact very badly and very brokenly, unfortunately. The stress mechanic as it sits now, my dwarves, let's be honest here, let's look at the fort for a moment. Massive forge cranking out every masterwork iron thing you can imagine. Dining room dressed to the nines with 2 libraries, tavern, barracks for training. Every dwarf in the fortress can do military work if they want, anytime they want, just by going to the archery range. They're all enlisted men. They're not actually assigned to military duty, but they're all enlisted, so they all can meet that need. So let's, temple. Dedicated temple. I don't have dedicated for each god, but they're all overlapped, so it's the same thing as far as the game is concerned. This is kind of an exploit, but it works. The catch is even if I separated these temples, they're not going to use them any differently than they do now, so I'm not gaining anything there. Temple's all done. So that's all of the major needs a dwarf needs, spiritually, physically, whatever. Stockpiles. We have 4,927 prepared meals. That's not raw food, mind you. That's prepared roasts, because I didn't bother to make biscuits or stews. We went straight to roasts. 4 ingredients in every one. But dwarves only like meals if they have their particular preference in them. So you can make all the roasts in the world, but if it doesn't have bumblebee brains in it, he won't eat it. Basically, well, he'll eat it, but he complains about it. Now, that used to be the case that dwarves only got a bonus when they ate their preferred meal. But now they get upset if they don't have their preferred meal all the time, and that's a bridge too far. Nobody can maintain some of these meals, and certain things dwarves simply cannot make at all, or cannot find at all. You aren't going to be able to make a meal out of bumblebee brains, no matter what you do. So, dwarves will get upset about the friends and family you can't do anything about. The meals you can't provide, because although you're providing huge, high-quality meals, there's nothing you can do to provide specific meat ingredients that they want. And even if you can, you aren't going to be able to provide them forever. So that's broken. They get, existentially depressed, and I mean that quite literally, existentially depressed about being caught in the rain or in the snow. So the weather totally fucks dwarves up before they even arrive in your fort. They arrive on the edge of the map, get rained on before they get to your fort, they're a shambling wreck by the time they get there. Yeah, unfortunately, until this is fixed, you can play, but if you run a fort for any length of time, it's going to stack up on you, and eventually your fort's just going to crumble because of it. Dwarves will start tantruming, shit will go south. Look, I get that we want to have stress as a mechanic. I'm on board. I like the idea. I'm tired of the old way where I smooth and engrave a dining room, put in a few tables and chairs, and never have to worry about stress again. That's not any good either. But this is broken. This, if you don't hack it, will end your fort. This is the lap of dwarven luxury compared to NPC forts. And they don't have a stress problem. But this does. Something is broken here. The cats aren't drinking themselves to death anymore solely because I haven't assigned a tavern keeper. Tavern keepers are bugged in the current version. They serve dwarfs to death, literally. They'll serve a dwarf, go around the room, give it out a round, and then go back to the same dwarf before he's even finished, give him another booze, and keep going. If you have enough people in the tavern who are serving drinks, your dwarves get alcohol poisoning and die. So I have no tavern keeper. It's broken. Tavern is supposed to be a mechanism to reduce stress through socialization and inebriation. Neither of those mechanics works at the moment. The library, they all need abstract thought. I've got 2 libraries they could be talking amongst themselves in. Nobody goes to the libraries to talk. Or at least not reliably. It's a case of a fantastically designed system that hasn't been implemented yet. It shouldn't have been released in this state. But apparently Toady and Three-Toe only listen to feedback through the Dwarf Fortress forums, and they don't consult feedback anywhere else at any time ever. So a few nut bars on the Dwarf Fortress subreddit, or the Dwarf Fortress forums, were telling them everything is fine, everything's great. Well, come to find out, about 4 pages or 5 pages into a big argument about this, they actually finally break down and admit that they're using a race that's had the stress modified out. I've got something like 90 hours of footage now where you can go back and you can watch me hack their stress to maximum. And even without any bad things happening, the dwarves will slowly grind their way back to below normal. I wouldn't mind it so much if they tried to get back to normal, but their normal isn't normal for this environment. They should realistically be in the content column, and they keep going back to the fine column. I get that this is fine, but this isn't a fine place, this is a content place. Everything's smooth, every need met that I can meet, that is. I post on the Dwarf Fortress subreddit. The reality is that separate forums for every game sounds like a really good idea, but you end up getting feedback from the grognards who have a particular vision of their own in mind, and not necessarily the health of the game in mind. Telling Toady that everything is fine with his new release while you're using a modified version that isn't actually testing the stuff in question, that's just, that's detrimental to everyone. And when you start dealing with only the grognards, you start dealing with a closed audience. You start dealing with the problem where people just they're not properly testing this alpha product. You can find me on the Bay 12 forum. I do post there occasionally, but it's pretty rare. I posted on their stress thread recently. I'm there under the same name as I am under the Dwarf Fortress on Reddit. I'm a nameless Archon there. But there are people even in that thread saying everything is fine. I'd like to know what they're doing. And I'd like to know that it doesn't involve manually inspecting 200 dwarves one at a time every season to meet their needs. But that's just it. They're not failing to bug report on vanilla. They're literally denying bug reports on vanilla and saying everything is kosher when it's not. I use Dwarf Therapist for and DF Hack for 2 reasons. One is they augment or extend the existing interface in ways that make the game playable in my eyes. This is a fantastic game, but with the vanilla interface, I would never play it. And furthermore, they give me insight into things that are not adequately explained or provided for by the default interface. So let's take an example, okay? This is this dwarf's thoughts and preferences. Go on, tell me where the important information is. I'll wait. If your eyes haven't completely glazed over yet, there's about 4 different color patterns being used here for different sections. And what's important in each section is a different color. And they're not even color-coded like yellow is always the important stuff and red is stuff you really need to pay attention to. No. They're all different. All of them. Brown at the top is negative. Brown at the bottom is negative. Red in the middle is negative. Yellow is negative, but a different amount of yellow is a different negative. It's more negative than the brown. You see, this is color-coded in a levels and tiers sort of sense. They're going to have to. This UI is not in a playable state for what I would consider the mainstream player. And I really worry about this. Make no mistake, I want to be very clear. I want Dwarf Fortress to succeed on Steam. But I'm concerned that this release on Steam will not be handled properly, and the masses will clobber Dwarf Fortress if it's released as like this. It's one thing to release an alpha where stuff isn't in yet, but releasing stuff that's literally broken and prevents you from finishing the, quote, finishing the game, as it were, or running the game for a length of time, or playing the game for a length of time, that's not going to go over well. That kind of stuff will get just absolutely thrashed in the Steam reviews. And rightfully. I'm not saying it shouldn't. So I want to avoid that kind of stuff. And the way we avoid that kind of stuff is a few facelifts on things like the interface and fixing some of these mechanics that are being left out there as placeholders for future development that's going to be 5 or 6 or 10 years down the road. If you're going to sell... There's a difference between... How do I put this? There's a difference between giving a product away and selling a product. When you give a product away, it's as is. The user can find it, use it, modify it. It's up to them, and frankly, they get what they get. If it doesn't work, that's not on you. You're giving it away. When you sell a product, there's a certain level of expectation that comes along with that. And people will say that there's not, but there is. If you buy something in a store and it doesn't work, you're going to take it back. You're going to return it. You're going to get a refund. I don't honestly know what they'll price it at on Steam. I haven't looked. Clinidev may know. I don't know if that's information's even been released yet. But my real concern there is that they'll release it and they won't give consideration to the state in which it's sitting when they release it. It'll be whatever state Toadie's developed to, plus whatever UI and uplifts they do, and then kick it out the door, and you can go look at the Mantis. There are bugs out there for features for years backdated. I get that working on the new stuff is fun, and bug fixing sucks. I get it. And I get that some of that bug fixing will be obviated by new development as systems are added that aren't currently in place. I get that too. But there's a certain level of expectation that will come along with a store release that has not been heretofore present, that will be manifest on this game. You cannot sell a product and not have a care for it in terms of the state it's in. I'll use a different example. 7 Days to Die is an alpha. It's an eternal alpha, just like Dwarf Fortress. There's a small team working on it. They, whatever. That's fine. I get it. But it mostly works. Mostly works down to I can sit down with my wife and we can fire up multiplayer, and even in their unstable builds, 99% of the game is working flawlessly enough that we don't notice any problems. Not saying there can't be problems on some sort of weird edge cases. There might be. Might be crash bugs that we haven't run into. But we don't hit them. We haven't found them. Just regular play hasn't exposed them. Whereas if I do sit down and I play Dwarf Fortress, and I sit down and I just go through basic regular play, I'm going to start building up a list of bugs as a new player. Some minor and trivial, some major and severe, from start to finish. Every single system is going to hit something. Some sort of bug, if you're paying attention. I love this game. It fits into one of my preferred categories, the colony builder. I love Oxygen Not Included and RimWorld the same way I love this. This, to me, is the granddaddy. This is what really inspires the genre, in a way. There's a reason why this is in the Museum of Modern Art and not RimWorld or Oxygen Not Included. They're great games, but this one goes farther. And I have two concerns. One is that they're going to do this Steam release, and you're going to get the grognards and the old-time players to buy, and you're going to get some new players to buy. And if it's not in a good shape, the new players will pan the reviews. The game will basically not sell another unit after that. They will flush it. You can go out there and look and see how well mostly negative games score on Steam, how well they sell. And I assure you, they don't show up on people's lists. I don't want Dwarf Fortress to be in that category just because it's not finished. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by it goes to 11, but yeah, if the players can't play, if there are game-breaking bugs like the stress system currently is, you might get around one or two if it's a rare edge case, but people are going to expect, even for a relatively unfinished product, that they can play it at an extent without hitting things. And the problem is I'm not sure how well this will be in the mainstream anyway, just based on its complexity. When you add in things that just don't work, oof. But let's be clear. I absolutely, positively, 120,000% want this game to succeed on Steam. I want Toady to be notch wealthy when this shit is done. I want them to feel like they hit the fucking lottery when this is done. Because I'm hopeful that the additional infusion of cash will allow them access to options that they haven't had in the past. It's a great game. I think with Toady steering tightly and a couple of people willing to implement to his vision, you go much further than you do with just Toady and Three Toe alone. I don't know that they'll ever go there, but I'd like to see them have the money to do it. The noob pack, okay, so for the record, if you're going to play Dwarf Fortress, play Dwarf Fortress, I cannot imagine a new player. I tried it. I tried the vanilla interface when I first started playing. I was that new player. And I just couldn't hack it. And I'd been hearing about this game for years, and I couldn't understand how anybody in their right fucking mind could play this game. Because it's awful. The interface is horrible, horrifying. It's the nightmare that the nightmares of user interface designers have. Nightmare user interface inception in this thing. Even with DF Hack, there are a lot of rough edges. Lots of switching between, star and divide versus plus and minus versus page up, page down, inconsistently all over the place. Oh man, the interface is horrible. Horrible. But the interface is occluding in the worst way one of the most fantastic games I've ever played. There is an incredible amount of depth and game here to be enjoyed. The interface just gets in the way 110%. I recommend any new player who is going to sit down with Dwarf Fortress, if you just started, I know you're thinking in your head, Dwarf Therapist looks like a lot of shit to control. Look at all this shit on his screen. It's like information overload in this thing. Oh my god, how do you manage it all? The reality is that you can do most of your dwarf therapist playing around with your dwarves on pause. First off, don't ever do it with Dwarf Fortress running. Just pause the game and then come over here and modify. Secondly, there's only a handful of things that you really need to do with Dwarf Therapist to get up and running. The first is you need to be able to sort by migration wave and by profession. Okay? Those are the two most important sorts that you can use out of the box. Profession are these things I've put them into, all this crafter, miner, crafter, stoneworker, whatever they're doing, okay? Whatever job I've given them. And migration wave is the wave in which they arrived or were born. So it separates your dwarves by arrival, so new migrants up here at the bottom. At that point, you can sort your dwarves by jobs they currently hold when they're currently in your fort, by migration wave for when you have a new migration wave arrive, and then back to profession so that you can handle your dwarves job by job. The user interface it's like trying to remember VI or Emacs combinations. It's somehow alien in a way. My brain was not built to do that. Even the muscle memory on the basic interface takes some getting used to. But trying to use the labor interface is where I break down. I don't mind so much the dig, build, view, K, all these Dwarf Fortress key maps. Hit K to inspect a tile, hit T to see what's in a workshop, hit Q to query a workshop's jobs, hit D to do digging, hit, there's a subset of D for DB that's area designation of certain items in certain ways. This is all buried and obscure to new players. I'm okay with that. I've learned the muscle memory, I've learned the keys. There's an element of that a new player has to be willing to overtake. If you're not willing to learn the key maps, you're not going to have any better time in Dwarf Fortress than you would have had in Moria or NetHack or Angband. All of these older games, these older, let's call them DOS emulation games, for lack of a better word. Well, FPS death is kind of an issue regardless. Once you get to a certain point, you can fight it. But, I mean, you've seen, when I first started, my Fortress is running, 50 frames a second reliably until we're deep into, 100 people, and then it starts to take a dive. We're down to, under 20 now. Things start to take a while. And much below 10, I don't usually bother. I just write the fort off. But there are some things you can do to fight it. You can close off old mine shafts that you're not using. We've got a lot of mine shafts out here that haven't finished. I could set up a temporary dump, cancel all my butchering, set up a temporary dump the vital stone in the dump, cancel that dump, re-enable my butchering, close off the mine shafts. That's a lot of work. It's doable, but it's a pain in the ass. And my dwarves just are going to take forever to scoop up all this ore. I mean, we've generated a large amount of ore to be pulled out. And unfortunately, we're not even done with the mine shaft. I mean, there's some ore here that we haven't explored yet. This ore hasn't been collected. There's going to be some more ore gems here, and so on and so forth and so on. And once this wall is installed, we'll need a door to bar off this area. I wish you could name pastures, as an example. I don't think you can. You can name zones if they're libraries, temples, or taverns, but you can't name a pasture. So, in this spot, we're going to stash something we don't care about, like this key. That'll work. And then maybe, sure, why not? The blue peahen pet, sure. And one more for good measure. A stray guinea hen. Yep, that'll work. And these birds will sit here. They're not grazers, so they don't require pasture space. They sit here behind the windows and they see down into the floor below. People have asked about this, and the problem is the way Toadie's answer to that is that the way Dwarf Fortress is rigged up, too many things have to happen serially for multi-threading to be much particular use. Pathfinding depends on temperature, depends on water flow, depends on creature movement, etc., 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 until multi-threading is now many problems have you. Supposedly. Again, I don't know the code base. That's Toadie's thing, you know. The problem is Toadie started this many, many, many years ago when multi-threading wasn't even a dream, really. When multiple pipeline execution was a total non-starter for people. And CPUs look to have, for the effective future, no effective maximum clock speed. You know, when I started using a PC for gaming, you're talking a 486 and 286 era. Way back when. My first computer was an 8088. Long, long, long time ago. Let's check on our butchering here. I hear lots of butchering, and I'm not sure I have a sufficient amount of tanning going on here. So we have to hit T, and see, even I'd make mistakes. I hit Q first to check on the workshop instead of T to check what's in the workshop. That kind of muscle memory, unfortunately, only comes with practice. There's no... see, we're starting to get way behind on skins. We got a lot of skins, and we're getting behind, it looks like. We got skins here, too. Yep, got skins here, too. So we need to disable butchery for a minute, let our guys catch up. Pending changes for the haulers I never implemented. Let's double check butchery on everyone, see who's got butchering. Did I disable it? No, I still have all of the militia doing the butchering. So we'll turn that off. Give our knackers a chance to catch up with the tanning. A lot of leather laying around. Well, I kept mine for years, but it eventually had something go wrong, and I'm not an electrical engineer to get in there and fix the hardware on a machine that old. Even if I had the specs. It was an old Wang Tech IBM XT. It had a turbo feature to turn the 4.77 megahertz up to 8. Of course, then it was unstable, so, you know, it didn't run perfectly at that point. But back when Toadie first started coding Dwarf Fortress in his first game, then multiple pipeline execution wasn't even a thing. You couldn't plan for it. It didn't exist. I'm dubious that Toadie has kept up with modern computer software architecture sufficiently to go back and recode his own game as multi-threaded. And I'm not sure that somebody else doing it would not make a complete hash of the thing. I had Defender of the Crown, and I'm trying to think what else I had on that old XT. Only a couple things. I was a kid at that point, and I couldn't afford games, really. It wasn't until I bought my first computer that I really started to get into computer gaming. When I bought that 486 SX2, mind you, I didn't have that math coprocessor shit. No. That was extra money. I couldn't afford that. SX2, running at its whopping 50 megahertz. That's when I started to get into gaming. That was Doom and... hell, I don't know what. The Commander Keen games, I guess? A lot of other stuff. A lot of BBS door games and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I suspect that a lot of the code, and again, keep in mind, I'm speaking all about this. This is completely extemporaneously. I have no knowledge of the code base. None. It could all be completely, perfectly, wonderfully clean code inside. I have no idea. But I suspect one guy working on it, long period of time, passion project, no need to work externally, probably a lot of cruft along the way. Especially when you consider that he's going back constantly and rewriting systems and plugging them back in. Especially when you consider the backlog of bugs on the Mantis. Yeah, I imagine there's probably a code gremlin in there too. Oh, I'm not sure if we traded before, so let's make sure I thought we traded before I quit last time, but I want to make sure. It was late. I was tired. I couldn't even keep my eyes open. It's going to be rough doing this 24 hours. I'm older now than I was when I first started doing this. And I no longer have that, how do I put this politely, youthful stamina. That's a polite way to put it. Another way to put it is, I get tired. Let's see what we can pick up relatively cheap. Copper axes, bronze warhammers. These aren't intended to be... Ooh, there's a regular battle axe. We can take that. And there's a copper pick. Copper crossbow. Obviously, these aren't intended to be the final weapons that our squads use, but they will pick up and they will improve as it goes along weapons that we get that aren't perfect matches for what we've told them to use. And when it comes to miners, they don't care what kind of pick they have as long as they have a pick. Copper is the same as steel for purposes of penetrating minerals. Not the same when you start using it as a melee weapon, however, so it's worth thinking about, are your picks upgraded for purposes of having your militia be staffed partially by a group of impromptu miners. The combat skill for picks is not any of the existing ones, it is the mining skill. So if you have a group of miners who are actually enlisted into the military, so that they're not actually miners anymore, and given picks as a military weapon, they are very dangerous. You're talking about a squad of 10 guys with legendary weapon skill. All they need is the armor and shield skill, and they are bad business. Is today Friday? Let me see. I thought it was Thursday. No, today's Thursday. The 24-hour run doesn't start until Saturday morning. 8 a.m. Saturday morning, we'll start 24 hours of Dwarf Fortress. So technically, if you really wanted to get technical, we'll stream on 34 days. But I wasn't going to point that out until, we actually did the 33rd day, which we haven't done yet. We're on day 31. It's Halloween! I feel like I should be doing a evil embark. Wasn't planning to, really. Oh, kind of getting that. Now that our frame rate is starting to decline, I'm starting to get that need to make a new fortress itch. And you'll be able to watch it as we go along. As the fortress starts, I won't normally hack the stress early. It'll be fairly late before I have to, when those few things that I can't meet or basically have no control over start to become prominently manifest. Because the what do you call it? Negative moodlets? Negative moodlets works. With the negative impact on the dwarven psyche is more pronounced for each of those needs the longer it's unmet. And so, to start off with, not meeting those needs, I could do lava boat. I have not done a volcano. I usually save volcano for the new players because it's pretty easy to get started on a volcano. A little bit of understanding of how to handle magma, a little bit of understanding how to handle water, and you're basically sitting on top of an obsidian caster at level 1 with infinite supply of, forgeable resources, and it's pretty hard not to go absolutely ripshit if you've got a surface volcano sitting by. None of the stuff we've done so far has been surface volcano for this stream. I did a glacier. I want to do a desert at some point. In fact, if I'm going to do a desert, I probably have to start it tonight or tomorrow and finish it up pretty quick because I don't have a lot of time to play it. And I do want to do a desert. I like having the sand everywhere. I want to get a red sand desert, green glass traps again. Probably doesn't look the same under the new tile sets, but it looked wicked awesome having green glass traps everywhere. Very Christmassy almost. Oh, that's quicklime. We'll take that. Almost missed that. I'll take those rock nuts too. That's food and seeds. But, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what more can I show folks at this point? I've demonstrated an obsidian caster, set up our entrance all but building the last traps and waiting for people to run over them because the frame rate started to drag and the crashes get too strong. There's a limit to what I can show, but I do kind of want to show everything. If I can do a desert volcano with a brook, that's just about perfect as far as I'm concerned. Let's see what we can do with the Embark Assistant. Why not? Let's go ahead and finish our trade here, and I'll save this one off, and we can start a new one. Did want to do a desert before the 24-hour stream if I can, because I definitely want to start a new fortress for that one. I always do. But basically, at the present moment, dwarves are getting no meal satisfaction from a finely prepared masterwork roast containing finely minced whatevers, made out of the finest dwarven syrup and dwarven flour. The best roasts imaginable give no credit to a dwarf unless they like one or more of the ingredients, and otherwise you get no credit for a dwarf being fed at all. You don't get the starvation malice, but you do get no credit for having provided the finest meals in dwarvendom, the kind that buy out caravans. Man, that's annoying. So that gives him some profit. What do we have that's not a mug? Anything that's for sale that's not a mug? Some clothing and a bunch of spikes. Yeah, okay, we can buy anything we want. Get rid of all our crap clothing. Get rid of a couple of corkscrews. Oh, wait, there's a better one there. Let's sell that corkscrew. And then we won't need to sell anything else because that will get us enough to buy anything we damn well want. So, in a way, you can look at the trading system as another as-yet not fully implemented feature. We can make coins, but coins are valuable only for their intrinsic metal and their intrinsic value. So, you know, steel coins are worth a little more than iron coins, but their individual coin value is not somehow different. It's just based on their mineral, their metal. So steel coins made here versus steel coins made somewhere else have the same denomination, basically the same trade value. Since it's a barter system, there's not much difference there. You're just basically bartering a low-value item made of steel. Oops, not sail leather. I want those iron ones, though. I'll take those chain leggings, too. So I haven't looked, and I don't want anyone to tell me what the results are, because I'm waiting to look at the straw poll until Friday night or Saturday morning when the final voting has come in. But are there people voting on the straw poll for the tile sets below the stream? I don't want to know who's winning. Don't tell me. Be nice. But I do want to see that folks are actually noticing it popping out there to do their voting. And we'll buy a bunch of cheese, pick up a few extra splints. Like I'm going to buy that crutch. Buy all their stuff. See, I could technically be buying these sorts of things, but if you actually view it, this has already been written. It's a one-page manual concerning the dissection of creatures. It's... I can bind up somebody else's codexes, basically, I guess. Give us some more books for our library. Okay, you should be happy with that. There we go, done. And now we've traded, we can move all our goods out. And tell everybody to pull the goods out. There we go. Okay, let's save it here, and I'll start that desert volcano. It's not abandoned. Save! Actually, I think that's fair, because I don't think I've started... Start. Okay, so let's design our world a little bit. Not sure I saved all my world gen seeds along the way. That's kind of unfortunate. People will have to embark and then modify them. Yeah, that's definitely not what we're using anymore. Okay. Okay, get a new seed. We can raise this a little without hurting anything. Not trying for oceans, remember? We want at least one rainfall everywhere. Even my desert has some rain. Let's see. Favoring savagery, favoring middling elevation. Favoring low rain and high rain. So we will turn this down and favor that a lot less. We will turn this weighting down and favor that a lot less, which will encourage the weight of the low rain zone to be more common. I need to check by drainage. I think we want to make sure we check that, because if we're not, we'll get rocky wastelands instead of deserts, and I want deserts. Hold on a moment. And as it happens, we want low drainage to be favored, because at middle drainage you get rocky wasteland, and at high drainage you get badlands. So we want deserts. That's low drainage. So we will leave that as a 10. We will drop this down to much lower. We will drop this to much lower. It will still favor those over other things, but it will favor this approximately 3 times as much as those, and those is 3 times as much as this. Whoops. Oh, I don't care about temperature. Never mind. I was like, why is this not set? I don't care about temperature. If you want to emphasize cold and hot, you could flip that on and set your temperature that way. Let's see. Poles are good. Minimum mountain peaks is 1. That's fine. Minimum volcano number. Let's turn that up a little bit. Say 8. Mineral scarcity is fine. I don't care about all this stuff. I'll leave it. I think we'll do those. That should be okay. Make sure we've got at least some water. Okay. Ba-doo-ba-doo. In order to minimize pathfinding, though this does make the game a little easier, we will increase the number of floors we have to play with before we hit the first cavern. And we will reduce the number we have between floors of these caverns, because we're not planning to occupy down there anymore. Leave that where it is, because that could sometimes affect the amount of candy. Okay, that should work. Save our settings, generate that world. Let's see what we get. Look like a lot of deserts. I'm gonna have to regenerate that. My weights are not sufficient. Don't believe elevation matters for this, but let me double check. Oh, temperature will, though. Maybe. Let's leave it for now. That looks a lot more sandy than before. Hills and badlands and wastelands and sand way up here in the north and sand down here in the middle. That's a lot sandier than it was before. Okay. Little tweak further and we should be good. Nope, still need to affect the, forgot to affect the weights. Let's tweak it a little harder. Sandier. Let's see if we can get what we want here. Looks like a lot of red sand. That looks promising. Around 125 years or so of history. Let's go ahead and try that. Export image and info. Give it a second. Oh, there's a DF hack command I need to run here to do the expanded Legends export. Hang on a moment, I need to remember the command. Okay, so yeah, we'll take it into Legends mode and do it that way, because that looks like it'd be a whole lot easier. So we'll accept this world, and let's go see if we can find a good spot. But before we do that, we'll do an export. See if we can get a little more information out of Legends mode. Okay, and then in DF hack. And this will take a minute because it is exporting a lot of data. All the site maps, all the detailed maps, all of the information for the world. This will take a minute. So these maps combine to form the biomes and trade holds and everything that's in the world, basically. You could look at each individual map and see each individual piece that you wanted to see, and the Legends viewers let you do that. Not sure which of these is better at the moment, so we're going to try this one to start. And this is Region 5, Legends. And it found everything, found the Legends Plus, parsed the additional data, so this handles the DF hack stuff as well. And here are the civilizations. There are 9 of them. There's 248 dwarves in the world, and 31 others that are part of the civilization. They own one place. That's it. We're going to be kings of the world in about 10 seconds. The dwarves have never fought a war. The elves have been absolutely defending their asses off against other people. Oh, let's see. And the elves have already lost their first civilization. It's not going so good for them. Let's get another look at the warfare here. I'm curious if... Oh, I don't really want to dig through them quite that much. This tell me I was hoping, and I don't think it will. I was hoping to know. Whether this would tell me whether a civilization has the ability to... No, it doesn't tell me about the civ having or not having. This is their event log, but it doesn't tell me whether they have high boots, for example. And I forgot to modify Chouse's. Damn it. Oh well. We'll move on. This'll do. Let's see if we can find a place to embark. Don't think we have any volcanoes in the desert. But let's let Embark Assistant see if we can find what we're looking for. I don't really want to do none either. Let's see if we can get a brook. Maybe we'll get lucky. I don't want to play with an aquifer if I can avoid it. Let's see. With at least very shallow soil. syndrome, thank you very much. No blood rain, thank you very much. No reanimation, thank you very much. With iron present, because I'm shooting for the moon at this point, might as well. Don't care about the rest of those so much. Well, let's see what this finds. Probably nothing, but we can look. I don't see a whole lot of flashing there. A lot of these things are kind of hard to get in very close conjunction. Flux plus volcano is really hard. Coal plus volcano is kind of hard. Iron and volcano is trivial. So, you know, if we're going to do it, we're also going to require you have tin and copper, because we will be able to make bronze then as well. That would still probably screw us out of... let's see if we can get flux with that. Maybe we can get flux without the coal. Whoops. Tell it I want to find stuff first. Not looking a whole lot more promising. Nope. Still too narrow. And I'm betting that's a big part of that. Oh, we said volcano with sand, though, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Volcano with sand might be the problem. Yeah, there are no volcanoes with sand anywhere in the world. So, back out we go, and we'll create a new one. And we'll push it a little further. That's a lot more deserty, but the volcano... Nope, you can try again. I see all the volcanoes down here and all the sand up there. That's not going to be doing us any better. Oops. Got to change the seed or something, or we're not going to do anything differently. Seeing one there yet. Let's keep going. Told it we have to have 3 desert regions. It's going to keep going until it gets a fair chunk of deserts this time. A lot more scattered, but I see all the volcanoes down here. We may not be able to get one this time either. Getting better, though. Problem is with a small zone, I'm not exactly sure how far I can take that region parameter before it's just rejection central. So let's up it to 5 regions for the desert. That is going to reject a few more worlds than before. Five might be too many without additional tweaking. Yep. Okay, so that's a lot of worlds. That's a lot of worlds. We can abort right there. We're good. Let's check our world gen logs and see what we got. Most of the failures look like initial desert squares. In other words, it didn't have enough desert to start. Didn't have enough mountains to start. I didn't know we had a swamp limit. I'll have to double check. We shouldn't have any swamp limits. Not enough peaks. Oh, that's region 1. We must have map rejections turned off. Damn it. Did we really turn that off? Is it even in here? Nope, it's hidden. It's in one of those things, and we didn't set it. Okay. We gotta bounce out of the game momentarily to fix it. Because it's in one of the init files, and I don't think there's an option for it in... While I'm at it, lower body step max. That wouldn't cover the feet, I don't believe. I'm going to have to look at that one. I got to remember how to do that one. I want to modify those properly. I'll come back to that one. Okay, let's try this again, this time with map reject logging turned on, so we can tell what's going wrong. That will help us pin down what's clamping our worlds. This is having trouble placing forests. Okay, so let's abort now and we'll look over our parameters. Probably still going to be an issue, but let's see if it tells us what's failing. Still forests. Okay, so let's abort. Let's take a look at the specific rejection message. And basically it's not creating any forest at all. It's failing the initial forest square count, which is causing elves not to be created. We've told it we want some. And it's occasionally failing the not enough peaks because we're favoring low elevation too much. Okay. Closer. Giant chunk of hilly badlands in the middle, lots and lots of grasslands everywhere, big fat desert. Probably no volcano in it though. And we'll randomize that shit and see if we can get a different seed out of it. Patchy. Let's take a peek. And if this doesn't work, we'll purge them and come back. Iron on a volcano usually isn't that big a deal. Let's see what we can get first. And it looks like a big fat pile of nothing. Womp womp. Might take us a while to do this, unfortunately. close. Ooh, ooh, that one's got volcanoes. Oh, in the sand. That one did. Mid-elevation, very low rainfall, non-freezing. I'm pretty sure I've allowed those. Let me double check. We can turn them up, I suppose. Low rainfall, high drainage. Clearly it's having... Oh, I bet I have the region set too high. I bet I have it set for 5 still. Which means only some of these are being acceptable based on deserts. It's having trouble placing desert regions, I suspect. Let me look. Nah, it's failing initial forest. I don't know what the hell it's talking about failing initial deserts. The hell is it failing initial deserts along here? Probably a little high on the region count is part of our problem. Because it's obviously placing deserts, no problem. I see sandy areas near volcanoes. That's promising. Let's take a look. Oh, so close. So close. 1 square of mountain. Nice. Freezing tundra with some temperate savanna, so trees are going to be really hard to come by if I use that one. Close. Close. Almost be willing. Okay, let's back out of that one. Try another one. Gonna purge off these region folders we're not using because we're gonna end up with too many of them, and I'm trying to keep it clean for when I export it for you guys. Hang on a minute. Yep. Sorry, that's an obsession of mine. I kind of want to keep my file structure a little clear. Unfortunately, there is no way to dictate. Put my volcanoes... Oh, that was real promising. I could see like 12 volcanoes in the middle of the desert. That was going to be a hit for sure. That might work. I think that's an ocean there in the middle of, though. The rest are all in the mountains. We can take a look at this one. Finding one could be a problem. Let's see here. Yeah, that's what I thought. There's a desert there, and if it joins this volcano, then it'll be perfect. If otherwise, it's not going to work. So I don't think any of the other volcanoes are anywhere near sand. Embark Assistant will tell us. Find me a 4x4 with a volcano. If it sweeps this area here... Nope, there's no volcano with sand there. That's what I was hoping it would be. Nada! This is not an easy combination to create. One moment. Let me look at something. Yeah, that's what I thought. That'll give us bigger regions, but... Nope, not enough desert. A lot of hills, better. I see forests, bastards. And did we get a volcano that time? Maybe. There's one here, looks like maybe. Looks like a couple here. We may go for a forest volcano if I can't get a sandy volcano. look like it. Actually, there's one right there. Not quite what I envisioned, but that might work if we get pinched. I'm going to put that one on. There's one up the north, too, it looks like on the world. No trees, sand everywhere. Flux. Squat for ore. This would be lead only. I don't really want to do lead only. Could, but eh. Okay, we'll save this one because it's got the one down south. Wrong one. Take a peek at this one. This is actually killing me because I'm going to get to come back and do this again tomorrow for the Saturday stream because I want to be able to start with the world. I miss the old days when flat volcano was a thing. Doesn't look like this one has a good candidate, so we're going to bail out of him. Clean out 5 and 6, and then try again. Or 5 and 7, rather. Unfortunately, what we're looking for is rare, and a few minutes now will save us a great deal later. That looks promising. Well, holy shit. I may take that. Have to do an unusually shaped fort, but that's doable. And we'd have copper, but no bronze. But we would have sand. All right, I'll do that. Do we have flux? Oh, no flux. No flux. That ain't gonna work. No way to importing it's too slow. I have to do like a 5x5 to grab that one. Well, I guess we'll just do without flux. It's going to be like a giant tall mountain, and then we're going to like step away from it as we slope down to the stream. This'll do. It's a little unusual. It's a little unusual size-wise, but is it a stream? Yeah, it's a stream. So we'll have to be careful how we do our intakes. Okay, let's make that work. Hoping that won't be a problem once we get our people indoors. Not going to put up with this silence. Huh. Odd that's not in there more often. There we go. Something rousing.
Farman, Rashirtunen again Alishanan, Edastabina Zushabzin, Motramakura Kamo, Motramakura Kam.
Okay. All right, this'll do.
This will be our new home. Ha ha!
Yeah, so no steel. We don't have any iron ore on site, no flux. So no steel, like ever. We'll get some if we import flux, but realistically, you can't import flux fast enough to make more than a handful of items in a year. Like literally, you can get 4 flux stones, so that's like 1 pig iron per stone, I think. Something like it does. The end result is you're not going to make more than 10 in a year. I don't think the humans bring stone as a matter of course, and I know the elves don't. Okay, so there's our volcano, and here is our rising cliff that leads to it. Kind of square mountain volcano, which is kind of nice, actually. And it'll kind of erode away. And then there's a lip, and then it's an empty caldera. That's probably the first level where we have magma. We won't actually dig in there. We'll dig in south of that because we want to be able to have magma piped in from the north and water piped in from the south and meet somewhere in the middle. So this is probably about as good a spot as we're going to get vis-a-vis our actual installation location. Actually, now the thing about it, I don't want to do that just yet because we don't have enough picks to go around. And that should get somebody furnace operating. Wow, not much sand to play with here. And we're starting to produce bronze. Axes first because we don't have any. We needed to cut trees. And they're going to finish up those last few tiles on both floors simultaneously, because of course they are. Dwarven Pathfinding doesn't consider up and down. Okay, and now we've cleared out the area for the farms and a temporary stockpile. We want to specifically exclude stone, disable, and wood. We don't want those in our stockpile. This is only for things which are large. And this will take bins and barrels because it's cool that way. Now, once this has unloaded the wagon, which shouldn't take all that long, I don't think, we can then get rid of it by slowly whittling down the amount of things that are allowed in it and creating stockpiles that hold everything else. Hey, welcome aboard, Mine 78. Happy to have you. If you have any questions, feel free. I'm not doing the big tutorial for it until Saturday, but we're raising money as part of a 33-day event until then, so feel free to ask questions as we go along. Are you new to the game, or have you played Dwarf Fortress before? Okay, so you've seen this all before then. We've just started. We have volcano, we have stream, we have sand. This is going to be fun. And it looks like they have successfully cleared the wagon now. There's only a few things left, all of which go to this forge right here on the surface to be processed, so we don't need to worry about that part now. We'll go down a couple more floors and start digging out the additional space. You did? Which one? Yeah, those are meandering in the wrong direction. The Degrinchinator! I'm familiar. I've never built one, but I'm familiar with it. Instantly sets goblins on fire in the range of magma mist. That's the... No, wait, that's the magma machine gun, isn't it? Hey, dreaded, welcome aboard. Gonna wrap up in about an hour and a half, it looks like. About 5 o'clock, we'll wrap up, and then I'll be back again at 8 p.m. Eastern for our evening stream. Today, tomorrow, and then the big 24-hour event on November 2nd. And we're close to our goal, so close. kind of waiting on the dwarves at this point. And once they've cut out these 2 floors, we can designate some of this stuff and get some of our workshops moved downstairs. Masons, craft dwarves. The forges will be below that, and then we can look at walling up. And we've emptied the wagons, so it's no longer of any particular value to us. So let's talk about floors. We've got our dormitory temporarily, our temporary stockpile, our food is going. This will be dormitory / hospital. Carpentry is here. Wood stockpile, crafts dwarves, stone, masons, ore, forges, which we should be low enough at this point to easily get access to the magma. No problem. And so on down through the fort. Give me have a tick here, guys. I gotta step away for just a moment. Sorry about that. Here we go. because the blocks are stored right there in the mason's workshop, right there on the top floor, this will be a very fast process. Could do this with a bridge, of course. You can cover a 10 by 10 with a bridge, and this is small enough that a bridge would go along the inside of it. But I'm thinking we may use this as a firing platform later, and I don't want to have a bridge there. I want to be able to build walls on the inside of it in order to be able to have fortifications with a single space behind them followed by walls so that you can force your archers to stand next to the fortifications and fire out. And with the bridge, you'd have to deconstruct at some point to get around that, I suspect. You'd have to build a lot more overhang than I'm planning to. And since we're not really intending to defend this entrance, really, it just needs to be walled up and tight, and then we'll seal it up, pull our stuff in, seal it up, and away we go. Now, we have not made contact with a cavern yet in order to get cave fungus growing, so as soon as our miners have finished this current run of rooms and we have some additional stuff we can start installing, we will go on ahead and work on that. Give our miners a second here to catch up, because apparently they're busy with other stuff, like building things. Oh, right, the roof. One advantage of doing it this way is that nothing can destroy it, although there is nothing in the current version I'm aware of that can destroy bridges that aren't moving. Since constructions are not counted as the same as buildings, these aren't checked for destruction in the same way. They are effectively impervious to attack, at least in the current version. And I suspect that would be a more major change than having bridge destruction be a thing. I'm hoping that's not the lags they were referring to. I really don't want to have to do a different map because this one keeps getting those hangs that I've noticed. This is an unusually shaped and rather large embark, 5x3. So I suspect we'll have frame rate issues a whole lot faster than before, which is okay because we're only going to be able to run this fort for a couple days. At most till tomorrow night, and then we'll have to end it for the Saturday stream. Temporarily need a mechanics workshop so I can get a mechanism for the lever and the bridge. And that's just about done, so they'll get the more permanent place up in here in a second, but get this designated as a room. Happening pad on the planet, but it's a bed and a roof over your head. And it only took us a month to do it. Oh no, I'm sorry, a season to do it. My bad. And we'll get a small stockpile of those made, and since that's done, we can kill this workshop up here and let them deal with the fallout in the stockpiles. Looks like that one's kind of full, unfortunately. This is in sand, so they'll dig it out very quickly, but we'll need pasture spaces for our grazers, birds, and other animals to store them underground. Pasture spaces for grazers will have to wait until we've made contact with a cave. Which, what the hell are our miners actually still doing now? Oh, they're storing, right. And the one guy's planting because he's really a planter. That's a... Turn off that mining for a moment and get on with the important job of getting a hole to the caverns, because if we do this early and seal it up, all the better. The faster we can get it started and sealed, the less likely there is something on the map creeping around waiting on us to open the caverns so it can pounce. The longer we've been here, the more likely something will be to have noticed us. When I create that stockpile, I don't want it filled either. I want the work done. Okay, that's phase one. Phase one gets us the space. Phase two is where we actually punch a hole into a cave with cave moss. It needs to be with cave moss. Cross your fingers that the first one is. And we're deep enough, we should be fairly close. Let's turn on Dwarven radar. So we are definitely going to come down in the middle of the cavern ceiling. This is definitely going to hit a cave. Good. There it is. There it is. And it's got cave moss, which is better. That's awesome. Okay, let's go on up. Find where our dwarves are. Cancel any remaining digging jobs in this column. Turns out I was a little aggressive. I didn't need to cancel the ones on this level, but that's okay. Just re-enable them and they'll carry on where they left off. And these all need to be up staircases because we've hit the bottom above the ceiling. There. Now, we still have one that actually allows access. We have to get rid of this one right here by itself. It was just the one this time, so we were right there. And we rebuild that as an up staircase so that it counts as a floor from below, and at that point what was a neat trick? The Dwarven radar trick? That's an old one. I can't even claim to have invented that one. That's an old one. Like, older than dirt old. I don't use it very often. You know, for me, at that point, it's easier just to pop reveal on if I need to see where something is and turn it off, but you can use Dwarven Radar to see it. It's not really giving you any additional information at that point other than what types of stone there are, and you'll find that as soon as you make the hole anyway. The truth is I rarely need to see exactly where something is, but it's nice to see exactly where we'll make contact and whether we're in a pillar or not. And I can get that from the radar a little easier than reveal, so it works. And we'll tell them to cut a few floors. Now, we should be getting some migrants along about now. We're midsummer. Should get a couple. I love your tile set, man. Make no mistake. I love it to death. But it's hard to use at the zoom I normally play at. Harder, I guess I would say, because you lose a lot of the fine detail at this distance. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous to look at. I like the faces, by the way, just so we're clear. But I'm normally playing about here, and you lose about 90% of the fact that that was a face. It's just because of the size. You wouldn't have the detail if it was at a 16, if it was 16x. Oh, I could probably play at a slightly bit lower zoom than I'm used to. It's just I'm used to playing with Phoebus and seeing everything in terms of, you know, basic sprites. Oh yeah, no. Make no mistake. I can play with it. I lose a little bit of information that I'm used to assessing visually. For example, the dwarves themselves, their identifying clothing is generally smaller. Harder to make out from the background, harder to make out from between two different dwarves at the zoom level I play at. They are visually distinct, but not always immediately recognizable.
We come here and hope
There's our
for a
migrants.
better life.
I need to convince my wife to let me invest in a giant 4K monitor I can hang on the wall right in front of my desk, and You know, as soon as I convince her to allow me to spend that money, I'm going to take full advantage here. I'm not sure what that would do for a stream. 4K down to 720 is probably horrifyingly compressed. Those two laborers I'm disabling temporarily, they would be a little problematic if I don't have their areas properly set up, and I don't. Sorry, I'm so used to the weaponsmith also being the farmer, I didn't realize at first that I had swapped it out. Now at this point, since I still have all the hauling labors on, this is mostly just an academic distribution of labor. Realistically, aside from the crafting skills, everybody's hauling, so what any of that done at the moment. Actually, I guess I do want those done. We'll set up in this fort again for glass making to be the all dwarves have a skill. Lots of, oh my god, my mug, no bedrooms, no chairs, slept on rough shit, had an argument, wah wah. Okay, so, where are we now? Still digging out, okay. Those guys can join the ranks of the miners too, because we're going to need more, and if they don't get good enough fast enough, well, they'll stay haulers. No big. It's, like I said, I like the nice, sharp, crisp lines and being able to look at the geography and say, or the geology and say, you know, this looks nice. Phoebus is functional, not pretty. I'm not kidding. I'm gonna have to talk her into letting me do it. We'll see. We've been talking about getting a pottery wheel and maybe down the road a kiln. And I do a lot of gaming, but I still think I'd like to have the pottery wheel and the kiln more than I think I'd like to have the 4K display. Okay, let me think this through for a second here. We've got wood there, crafts, dwarves, stone stockpile, masons. Wow, and we actually get it all the way down to the bottom floor with the entire column. Nice. And that bottom floor is going to be magma because we're going to fill it with magma to operate our forges, which will be on the floor above it. Actually, I take that back. We may go a couple floors up so we can do a nice pinwheel.
saman, na suoko naral delerlam, akura kira kam, akura kira kam. Al nizugo bardum, fit gamma botso deli basaman, opuraj nekolato tam, akura kira kam, akura kira kam. Mondul, kisatarman, rashirtunen egen alisanan, edas abina zushabzin, motram makura kam, motram makura kam.
Ooh, now I get to find out if DF Hack's dig circle works in conjunction with DF's macro system. This'll be fun. Alas, it does not. Bummer. Okay, so what the hell am I doing with all of this? Bottom floor is magma. Floor below that is access, but we'll get to that in a second. This is the magma chamber. It will fill up full of magma. Nobody will be able to access it once we're done. Forges, kilns, smelters, glass furnaces. Ore, sandbags, clay, bars above the forges. Ore, flux, bars will have overflow. On the same floor with the forges, we may have smaller stockpiles which take from the top floor. This will take a while to dig out. But we really need to let them finish before we go any further. Because this is a lot of magma we're going to be moving. We don't want to do it wrong. My apologies for taking so long to designate that, but I did kind of want to focus on it carefully. Dyslexia for cure found. Just curious about the soil types on site. Nope. Just sand. Okay. I can build a kiln, but we don't have any sand or clay to run it. So there's not a lot of point to build many of them. Clay is heavy and does not import well.
The time for autumn has come.
Actually, Vetlinger, I'm kind of curious. Is there a way you could reduce the 32 by 32 tile set, or will it just simply come out a garbled mess at that point? I'm guessing it would need a lot of cleanup.
I am seen. I must go back to the shadows.
I mean, effectively, you could upscale it, right? I mean, it would require, like I said, you'd have to revisit every sprite to clean them up. You have to forgive me. I'm a relative novice to graphics. It's kind of something that eludes me. So I can install DF tile sets, but don't ask me to expound upon the difficulties faced by trying to do what I'm describing. And now we've started to see, I especially love it on this because I can tell immediately what's got sand in each tile. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love the outlines. So now we can set up pasture zones. We only have a handful, like 2 grazers that we actually care about. And it's time to start butchering a few of these folks because, well, you're welcome, it has overstayed. So we'll build a temporary workshops down here. We're still waiting to clean out that main stockpile. That main stockpile needs to be food. Actually, we're going to improvise a little bit. No top, no bottom left, everything else works. Okay. These little cubicles will easily house butchers' workshops and farmers' workshops, places where potentially rotting meat and potentially rotting cheese are created. Because they're a diagonal away from the main chamber, anything produced in them but not actually consumed and left to rot would then be contained in terms of miasma to the room itself and could be locked via a single door away from the remainder of the fort. Realistically, items will only be moved to the tanner's workshops in the center after they've been claimed and are ready to be processed,
I won't do it.
and they'll be processed immediately. See if we can give them a little more room.
I can't do that
You
there.
can't do that there.
Says it's walkable, right through the top right.
It won't work. I
But you
can't
think
do
I can
it.
do this?
Ugh, we need to build a trade depot.
Give me a second, I need to check. Yep, and that forbids tallow, so I can use it in soap. It doesn't get consumed by my kitchens, and I don't have to manually mark it. Tallow's really painful to mark. Yeah, I know this isn't the best spot for it, but frankly, we're going to confiscate anything they bring down here and store anyway, so it's on them. Should have sent us more trade goods, boys. Okay, as always, we will always need leather. Always, always, always. I don't think you've ever had a fort that didn't import every ounce of leather it could find and then try to import some more off the goblins. I swear I've been tempted to edit the raws to allow us to butcher sentients and take their leather. Likewise, cloth is usually at a premium. Wouldn't hurt to have some logs this time. We're in kind of a sparse environment. We don't necessarily need them, but it would be nice to have them delivered. We will take every iron bar, every gold bar, every silver bar, and every other bar they can send to us, including soap if they would give it. Seeds, because we're short on them to start. And this is pretty much the I want to convert it to meat list. If they bring us something useful, we'll use it, but everything else will just go in the butchering list. We'll always take drinks the first season. Lye is easy to make, but a pain. Coke is nice to have. Charcoal is just coke in a different name. And we might as well bring potash and pearl ash. Why not? You guys can bring it to us. Let's get some sand, too. We can make it, but they'll bring bags, and it's cheap, so why not buy them? On the plus side, not that many instruments this time around, which of course means that there'll be a temple with 27 gods. And we need cloth and thread from yarn because it's different than the others. Now, I don't think it is possible to import yes, there it is. Need quicklime to make parchments. Is milk of lime in here? No. Okay, I think that'll do. Super, what do you want? You want fish we're not going to bother with. Bracelets we could do. Figurines. Crutches, scepters. Legwear, handwear. Oh, that reminds me. I figured out, I think, how to make dwarves collect items regularly. So dwarves have to get made happy by moving items around, because if they're not hauling the item, they won't claim the item, and they get happiness for claiming items fairly recently. So, or having claimed items, I'm not sure which. But you can, I think, trigger this by having 3 stockpiles with the items to be claimed as their sole contents in bins and have them feed to one another in a cycle. That will generate a stream of hauling jobs, which will force dwarves to immediately start hauling everything, which will force every dwarf to be touching items that they can conceivably collect, and should force dwarves to do it. The problem is you'll have to turn off the cycle periodically, or your dwarven labor will just get swallowed by the hauling. Let's see. Bone scepters. Scepters would be nice, but not bone. Crutches, toys. Toys is doable. The rest of this is not stuff I would export. Okay. Toys it is. Our children will be the happiest. They're toys and figurines, I guess. And bracelets. The happiest children ever. No, I'm not too worried about it. We'll sell all kinds of stuff because we'll have glass. Glass means trap components. And that means fat stacks of money. I have an idea for this. I need to let him dig it out. Give me a second, guys. Let's see if they'll get this built properly. And if they'll do this, then we're in good shape. Because I'll make this stockpile into cheese and milk. Well, and venom too, because I can't separate them. There we go. Milk and cheese, add into a stockpile, and then we can take that stockpile and feed it somewhere else. But that gives us an immediate storage for those things if we create them. And then this one can hold meat and fat. And obviously that isn't going to hold all of those in the fortress, but it'll start. Forgot to set the outer stockpile to seeds but no barrels. It's only a feeder. Okay. And then tannery workshops, wood crafting, and dyeing because it's easy. But I don't have dyeing yet. Just that's mechanics workshop that needs to get rid of. Wood stockpile, crafts dwarves. Oh, they did bring me stuff. That was a tactical error. That will cost them. It's not going to be pretty. Ho ho ho, thanks for the dough. Now we set this to take from links only because we want to make sure that nothing new is added to the stockpile. We will eventually disassemble it, but at this point it's now allowed to contain everything, and then we can sort its stuff out later. Okay guys, it's 4:20 and I'm going to go ahead and call it for this afternoon. My wife has gotten home unexpectedly and I kind of want to play for a bit. I'll be back tonight at 8 p.m. for our scheduled stream, just like usual. We'll play for a few hours tonight, and again tomorrow during the afternoon for Dwarf Fortress. Once more in the evening, again at 8 p.m., and then the big game day on Saturday, 8 a.m. So, guys, before I go, does anybody have any questions? And we'll pick up with this fort tonight when I start up. I love the bolts. I love the detail. This reminds me of, what was that old Mac game that I used to play in junior high? Castle in the Winds or something. Okay, guys, not seeing a whole lot of questions out of chat, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up for this evening. We'll be back again tonight at 8. And I hope to see as many of you as possible back then. Have a good night, guys.